That's the sound of the 1951 Ford Victoria Hot Rod, fully restored and donated from the private collection of A.J. Hires. It's the 2017 Win the Classic Ford Car Raffle to support Helping Seniors of Brevard. You have to see this car. I'm Kerry Fink, and I'm inviting you to visit helpingseniorsofbrevard.org for full information on this exciting car raffle. That's helpingseniorsofbrevard.org. Stay tuned for more info on the Talk to Me radio network. We're glad that WMEL cares about the space and Treasure Coast.
The views expressed on the following program are those of the hosts, callers, and guests, and are not necessarily those of WMEL staff, management, or advertisers.
This is Joe Steckler, folks, your host for Helping Seniors, the radio arm of helpingseniorsofbrevard.org. That's our website, folks. And if you really want to find out what we do, and what we do is generate information, education, and help connect seniors and those that care for seniors with services in Brevard County, Florida. And today we're going to talk with Joe Pons, who is one of the owners of Canadian Meds of Melbourne. And it's extremely important because before the show we had a long discussion on the old donut hole. And, I'm sure that most of you that have to buy your medications on the open market understand the donut hole, but there are a lot of people that don't understand that darn thing. And I think finally Joe was able to draw enough of a picture where it hit me between the running lights, and then the other guy on the show today, Kerry Fink, the director over at Helping Seniors. Kerry's mother was involved in this, so Kerry's got first-hand knowledge. So between the three of us today, two of them are going to explain it, and the third one, meeting me, is going to listen. But this is the advantage of having people like Kerry and Joe on this radio show, because they bring first-hand experience to an arena that's very, very complex and very, very costly for most Americans, that being the subject of health care, medicine, drug medications that you have to buy on the market. It's extremely expensive. And everything we do at Helping Seniors is paid for by sponsors and our ability to raise our own money. And you heard John Harper's radio station, WMEL, play a wonderful commercial about our 1951 Ford Victoria that we're raffling off now. And if you go to our website, helpingseniorsofbrevard.org, you'll see the car. You'll see how you can contribute. You'll see how you can be part of helping some other people. And Kerry and Joe, we just got a recent update on the numbers of people in Brevard County, and we are now at 568,000 people in Brevard.
Wow.
568,000. Wow. And 24.1% of those people are senior citizens.
Wow.
So, it makes a show like the one we do here today extremely more important. Some of the sponsors that pay for this show are organizations like the Eye Institute, Dr. Lee Sheldon, who is a dentist, Bill Johnson, elder law attorney, Wistoff Hospital Systems, Zon Beachside Assisted Living Facility. Some of our nonprofit papers like Aldea Today, Barefoot Bay Tatler, the Space Coast Online newspaper. These are all information, Hometown News. These are all information pieces that help us get the word out to you. And so, having said that, if you want to get a complete listing of all of our sponsors, go to helpingseniorsofbrevard.org. Take a look on there and see what these people do to help you, our listeners. It's because it's extremely important. And let's just get the show started today. Joe, today I think since we've got you as the guy that owns Canadian Meds, and then Kerry Fink, who is the director at Helping Seniors, has had first-hand experience of how the importance of understanding how we can do a better job of disseminating and acquiring medications at a greatly reduced cost basis when we think about what the government charges for medications, what private industry charges, not government. It makes it more important for people to understand what an organization like Canadian Meds is, because you're not a pharmacy. You don't stock medicines there like Walgreens or CVS or anything like that. So correct. Let's really get down to basics today on the show and explain to our people what Canadian Meds is, what it does, and how your organization can really help people. And then we're going to illustrate that with some examples from Kerry.
Okay. Fantastic. Well, first of all, thank you for having me on the show, Joe.
You're welcome, Joe. It's always a pleasure to have you.
Delightful. Thank you.
I think I always got an F full tackle when I got you in here.
Thank you.
He's pretty good size, folks. I wouldn't want to cross him.
Well, thank you.
He's like the Jolly Green Giant.
That's right, the Gentle Giant. Yes, sir.
Gentle Giant. Okay.
Yes, sir. Basically, Joe, we're an American-owned, veteran-owned company. The name comes from the fact that our pharmacists are actually in Canada. And what that does is that allows us to purchase medication from the factories and the big distributors where the medicine's made, all over the world. Basically, that allows us to cut out all the middlemen, cuts out all the greed factor, and allows us to have the medication sent directly to our American clients wherever they are in America, not just here in Brevard, but anywhere in America, at a greatly reduced rate, anywhere between 60 to 90% less than what they can purchase anywhere else.
Why is that? When somebody says, I'll save 60%, 90%. When people start thinking percentage, they don't think too much about it. But can you give a little illustration of why 60% means a heck of a lot to somebody?
Absolutely. In real terms, just one medication. A lot of people have heard of Spiriva. It's a medication that helps those with COPD. It's a breathing treatment. The average person will pay about $300 at the local pharmacy for one month for the use of an inhaler. We have it for $40 a month.
The same inhaler?
Same inhaler, same brand name. It's made by GSK, GlaxoSmithKline. What that turns out to be is that if you think about it, over the course of 10 months, that's $3,000. Think about it. Times 10, $3,000.
Right.
Versus $400. So if you were to take that savings, we're talking about quality of life. A mortgage payment, a car payment. For those who have it, we're talking about a grand.
More than one car payment.
I mean, we're talking about for those who have the ability to take a vacation every single year, and that's just one medication, Joe.
How many companies are there in Melbourne, Florida, like yours?
None I can think of, and I try to keep an eye out because
you're the only one.
Yes, like I said, Canadian Meds of Melbourne. That's us.
When did you start doing this?
5 years ago.
5 years ago.
Yes, sir.
How many? Let's say in the first 3 months you were in business, approximately how many customers did you have?
20.
How many customers do you have today?
Repeat customers at this point, $437.
437. And it actually should be a lot more than that.
We're working on it, Joe.
Well, no, I'm saying, I know you're working on it.
Yes, sir.
But, Joe, until the general public understands what is happening and, more importantly, what is not happening, it makes it all the more reason for counties across the United States to have what Kerry and I refer to through our advocacy group as an aging plan. Kerry, correct. What do you see as the value or what could an aging plan contribute towards promoting a company like Canadian Meds? And there's nothing wrong with promoting a company that can save people money like we're talking about today, because we're talking about a lot of people living on fixed incomes, and we're going to talk about that in just a minute. But the question I've asked you right now, what do you see as one of the big gains that we could make from having our commissioners and our our organizations, our nonprofits, understand the value of organizations like Canadian Meds to the free market and to being able simply to buy the medicines that you need to live when you can't afford them?
Well, I think it's the place to begin is, as we often talk about with helping seniors, we're all about getting information into people's hands. And I was just thinking when Joe was talking about working with, basically the better part of 500 seniors throughout Brevard County every month, that would mean that there's 250,000 less 500 who could be saving this kind of money. And when you sit there and you talk about somebody perhaps saving $2,500 a year on just one medication, and you would multiply that out, think about the benefit that would be to the economy locally here. So number one, it's a locally owned business, so you're dealing with a neighbor here in town, and you're not. And then number two, it's a good way to put money more productively to work in our community, because that savings is going to wind up, people are going to shop with it, et cetera. But it comes back to this key point. If people don't know a service exists, then it might as well not exist to them. And so the key, to come back and answer your question, the key thing about the aging plan is that helps us be sure that we're effectively communicating. We get calls from people who don't even know that there's a Meals on Wheels program. You assume all these things, but unless you have a plan that we all will work together to get this information in the hands of seniors, how many people fall through the cracks?
Yeah, and for the federal government to give Aging Matters roughly $600,000, $700,000 just to buy the food alone for the Meals on Wheels program, plus more money for their overhead costs and everything, it just doesn't make a lot of sense to waste the money on purchase of drugs when in fact we could drive down the cost of the drugs and give people more money to spend. They would have more money to spend on their own activities of living, activities of daily living. They could afford to have somebody come in and help clean a house. They could have somebody take them shopping, or they could afford transportation. They don't own a car. Some people are too old, too frail to drive a car. They can't get out.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
They're just okay. Listeners, just think about what we've talked about so far. And I'm going to skip ahead to something Joe sent me, because we're going to talk about I'm going to jump in right now and talk about the donut hole right now. Because if Joe and Kerry will probably have most of this discussion. I'll add something to it if I see they're not going to cover what else I want them to cover. But if Joe's going to explain what happens on the donut hole when we talk about a $3,700 thing and a $4,900 thing, and think about co-pays and what Kerry just said about cost of drugs, Joe, explain to our listeners just what it is that you and I were talking about before the show and why it's so important, and how once people exhaust their they've used their co-payments up, they got to start paying for these drugs. And there's so many people. I wasn't aware until I've started talking to you more about this. I wasn't aware how quickly people get to the point where they get into the donut hole and these drugs start really coming out of their pocket, and they're paying for that. They're paying $300 for that drug when they could in fact be paying $40 for it. So explain it to our people.
Okay. Let's leave out the dollar amounts for right now, so that way we can kind of keep everything simple, ABC simple. The donut hole is what we think of as a deductible. It's just that the deductible that ordinarily for any other insurance factor, Medicare Part D, which is prescription coverage, takes that deductible and places it after a certain amount of money that seniors get as a benefit. So if you were to draw it down on a piece of paper, it looks like a donut. You have level coverage, and then you have a level where the individual pays out of pocket, and then you have a level of coverage. Donut hole.
Okay.
What some people don't understand is that with the copays, the amount of money that is allocated for the senior, the insurance is being charged for the actual amount of the medication, not the copay. So, for example, the senior who pays $40 a month for their medication, regardless of the medication, their account is being charged the retail price of the medication. So while they're being charged $40 and the medication may be $200, that's being taken from their account. Well, once it reaches their particular dollar amount, which just happens to be a little bit higher this year, then the senior is now responsible to pay a higher percentage, which, unfortunately, a lot of seniors cannot afford. Hence, we call it falling into the donut hole. That becomes catastrophic because when a senior can't afford that medication, the decision then becomes, well, where does that money come from? If they don't have family members and friends who can supplement their income, because a lot of seniors simply don't have an extra means of income, they are on a fixed income, they decide not to take their medication. It's one thing to switch medication around, and I see it a lot where our clients come to us having taken medication not the way it was prescribed in order to try to extend the use of medication. Oftentimes, our clients come to us having not taken the medication at all simply because they can't afford it. And then they will not take their medication again until the benefits pick back up.
And Kerry, I want Kerry to comment, but I want to say something about what Joe just said. You get certain medications, folks, and many of you listening to the show probably are taking the same types of medications that I have. And some of these medications are meds that you simply can't stop. If you stop them abruptly, you go into what we call withdrawal. And it's like going into the DTs from alcohol poisoning, or you like going into shock. You can kill yourself, and this just happens because they've gotten that donut hole. They're no longer getting a $5 or $10 copay. They got to pay $200 and $300 for medication. The sad part about it is that here is Joe Pond sitting there with Canadian Meds, and he's got the capability to give you that $300 drug when we were talking about for $40 instead of $300. Now, I'm not saying you're going to afford that any more than anything else, but there's a better chance that you can figure out a way for it's $40 than for $300. Now, Kerry, you go ahead and explain how this got affected you and your family.
Well, and there is a story because my wife's mother was a person who was surviving on literally a widow's benefit, Social Security. And I mean, so we're talking in the hundreds of dollars per month. And as you know, not only do you receive those few $100s, but they also take out a chunk of it to pay for your Medicare premium. So that goes, then you're left with a very small amount. But if you have a lot of medicines, then this donut hole thing becomes very, very serious because at the new year, it really is a happy new year because you're able to go out and get your medicines covered. But you get to a point fairly quick in the year, and for her it seemed to be sometime around the middle of the year that all of a sudden she was facing $300, $400, $500 a month medicine bills for medicines that she had to have. And no way to pay for it on her own because there's no help until you get to that 4,700 figure or something. And this is one of the things that I think is maybe the silent thing that is part of the problem with this too, is the thing that Joe was just talking about. You know, if you go down to to your drugstore and you make your co-payment, you think, well, I just paid my $25 for the medicine. But the point is, if you didn't get a good price on the medicine, well, unbeknownst to you, this is all now being calculated against your donut hole. So you slide into that donut hole even earlier because you didn't get the best price as a consumer. To you, you just thought, well, I can afford this $25, but you didn't realize that you might have paid 10 times too much for the medication to begin with. So this logic of understanding what the total cost of your medicine is really even that much more important, because it could delay when you fall into the donut hole.
Correct.
Can the medicines that purchase through Canadian Meds, could they be used to affect the donut hole attainment? I guess what I'm asking, Joe, is can a person that buys medicines through Canadian Meds, can they use those medicines to count against the donut hole or not?
To be truthful, I'm not sure.
I just wonder. Nobody's ever discussed that question.
And the thing is that even though I've asked one of my clients to come back and tell me, nobody's come back and told me. And because of the fact that I give, everybody who wants one a receipt, and of course they get a receipt with their medicine. The fact is that they are spending money on medication, and as long as they turn in their receipts, it is absolutely part of the regulations that they're spending their money on medicine, and it's part of the requirement. So as long as they're doing that, that's part of the what we were talking about as far as Kerry is concerned. If you're getting a great price on your medicine, you take that and you apply it toward the benefit, then you can extend those benefits. Instead of getting into the donut hole in March or April, you can extend those benefits literally all year long. Even if you fall into the donut hole, say, in November, I can still help you. And like you said, sometimes it's difficult to find that little bit of money, but it's easier to find $120 as opposed to $1,000.
Yeah, because some of the medicines you and I have talked about, where doctors have charged, I can remember one that you told me was a $1,200 cost for one-time use, and we're almost at the mid-show break, folks. But it was $1,200 for a one-time use, and yet you could still purchase that one-time use thing for $175.
Correct.
And the drug company in Canada and the United States were still making a profit.
Yes.
And the doctor was still making money.
Yep.
And the patient was spending $1,000 less.
Mm-hmm.
This is why it's so important to know. Okay, folks, we've got to take a mid-show break. We're going to come back. We've got a couple other examples. We're going to talk about nonprofits. We've got several other things to talk about today. So do stay with us after the break.
That's the sound of the 1951 Ford Victoria Hot Rod, fully restored and donated from the private collection of A.J. Hires. It's the 2017 Win the Classic Ford car raffle to support Helping Seniors of Brevard. You have to see this car. I'm Kerry Fink, and I'm inviting you to visit helpingseniors.brevard.org for full information on this exciting car raffle. That's helpingseniors.brevard.org. Stay tuned for more info on the Talk to Me radio network. We're glad that WMEL cares about the space and Treasure Coast.
This is Jeff Steckler, folks. I'm back live with the second half of hey, I like that second half of Helping Seniors. This thing about that, there's some pretty good football games on this coming weekend, I think, too. I think Florida plays, don't they?
I think so.
I think Florida plays Texas A&M.
Don't quote me.
I think so. Oh, Kerry's shaking his head.
Here comes Gary.
No, not yet. It's not until the 1st of September.
Okay. Okay. All right. But there's still some football games on this weekend.
Exhibition.
Okay. Folks, the objective of Helping Seniors is to inform and educate. And we do that by our radio show, our television shows, all our printed articles, organizations like Senior Scene Magazine, Helping Seniors of Brevard, which is our Seniors Helping Seniors, which is a home care organization. They do a lot of things by word of mouth. Vitas Hospice, Canadian Meds, our sponsor today. But Ear Care, Barbara McIntyre, who is a home equity loan specialist, the Fountains of Melbourne, Seniors Helping Seniors. There are just so many organizations that are all part of this network, and a lot of it is by word of mouth. A lot of it is just by excellent service. And one thing that we never really have talked about, and I do want to make this point before we get off the topic of Canadian Meds today and drug prescriptions. Joe, if a person wants to talk to you about whether or not Canadian Meds would be a better fit for them than what they're doing right now, or an extension of what they're doing now, I want you to give people the phone number to contact you, but I also would like for you to explain a little bit about how long, once a person contacts you, how long could they expect an established conduit pipe of the medications to start flowing on a regular basis to you, and how does that happen? Is it I have trouble getting medications at Walgreens or CVS sometimes.
Right.
Now we're talking about a company that's bringing medications in from outside the country. Explain that just a little bit, okay?
Sure, no problem. First of all, you can contact us at 321-574-6976. And that's our straight direct number. You can ask for me, Little Joe Pons, for a free consultation. You can consider us your second opinion. Just simply ask for the name of the medication, the dosage, and the number of times a day that you take that medication, and we can let you know if there's a generic available and how much it costs. If it suits you, and it'll fit into your budget, then fine, we can move forward. All it requires is a short form that we have to keep on file. That, of course, that's required by the FDA and the DEA. Once we have that in hand, we need to have a prescription. Everything that we have is by prescription, Joe. And the process takes all of about 20 or 30 minutes, mainly because I don't type very quickly. And once we have that, that's it. The medicine itself takes anywhere between 2.5 to 3 weeks, and it arrives directly at a person's door.
Goes directly to their house.
Directly to their house.
Right. And how do they, once if it's a medication they take daily, do the doctors write a 4-month prescription? You can get it for long term, and you have to renew it on a monthly basis. I guess what I'm asking, can the doctors prescribe it the same way through your company as they do through the Americans, Walgreens, and CVS and all that?
Exactly, the exact same way. Ideally, we try to do it in 3-month increments.
Okay.
We can order as often as an individual likes. We belong to an organization called Pharmacy Checker. We do that voluntarily just to make sure and give validity to the organization and the business that we run, so that people know that we run an honest business. And that
ensures that the drugs are checked just like they're checked in the United States by a pharmacist.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Kerry, do you have any other questions on anything in your own personal experiences?
Well, I just think we were talking during the break, too, about, we've experienced family members who got into trouble because they made an economic decision between the cost of a medicine and, to be honest, the cost of good health. And, the old saying, the most valuable thing you can have is your health. And sometimes in the heat of the moment, somebody will say, well, I need this instead of that. And so anything that gives somebody a reason to be hopeful that they can make their budget work, they need to give Joe a call and at least explore and find out if that's going to make a difference for them, because it could be that it literally could save their life.
Yeah. So that's pretty much what we're talking about on prescription medications. But let's shift over to another topic that, and I know I kind of expect, Joe, that you might get involved in this sometime in the future, because there's been a new law passed or enacted that allows over-the-counter hearing aids to be sold in the United States. And this has not been possible heretofore because Medicare does not pay for hearing devices because it's so doggone expensive. And I've run into several arguments with different people about how many companies there are that make hearing aid devices. According to some of the sources I've read, there are only about 4 organizations worldwide that really make the majority of. That's right, 4 organizations, Kerry?
Wow.
Yeah.
No, I don't know. That's
okay.
amazing.
But there are roughly 4 organizations that make the majority of hearing aids, and the actual average price of cost-effective hearing aids are $2,000. And one of the things I was discussing with my wife, I said, I've got all these old hearing aids, and I keep getting my hearing aids through the VA, and they keep updating them with new technology because some hearing aids will work a long time quite effectively for certain people. Others you have to change. And I'm just wondering, and we haven't even discussed this with a hearing aid specialist, we intend to, what about the feasibility of using older hearing aids, taking them and pooling them and having them modified by a hearing aid technician so that they can be used by people that can't afford hearing aids? Is that, to your knowledge, Joe, has that ever come up in the private sector?
Not to my knowledge. However, hearing you say it, sounds like an absolutely wonderful idea. I don't know what happens to the old hearing aids once they're replaced.
I think most of them just get tossed. I know, like for mine, of course, a lot of hearing aids are like a wire that just goes down the ear and never go in anybody's ear. A lot of the hearing aids are molded hearing aids, but once they're molded, they can be modified to where they might be smaller in diameter or size and still fit in somebody else's ear canal. You wouldn't know until you tried it, but I would think that since all these hearing aid devices, once they're put in somebody's ear, the audiologist changes the settings on the devices according to what's up on their screens, and sets the initial settings so that they would work best on a person. But there must be thousands upon thousands of old hearing aids out there. Of course, maybe audiologists might not like me saying that on the air because you might be getting into their knickers about selling hearing aid devices, but heavens to goodness, if a person can't afford a hearing aid, and there are ways that we could help them, it would seem to me that if the government recognizes the cost of hearing aids as an astronomical impact on a national budget, if they provided them to people, then maybe we should seek ways to help solve the problem. Any comment from either one of you on that, Kerry?
Seems like I think there's a program that they do within the Lions that work with eyeglasses in exactly the same way. You take your glasses, your prescription lenses that you're done with, and they are able to benefit somebody that otherwise may not have access to better vision. It seems logical that this would open up a pathway for people to who may not ever otherwise be able to be in the market for a hearing aid. It may give them an option.
Well, yeah, we have 75,000 veterans in Brevard County. And I was at a luncheon one time a year ago with 2 gentlemen that were both vets. Neither one of them knew that the VA provided hearing aids. Neither one of them knew that. Mm-hmm. And one gentleman had an old set of hearing aids. He couldn't even hardly hear. Wow. And once he found out about that, I saw the man at church a week ago, and I could see he had hearing aids and similar to what I have. I said, "How are the new hearing aids?" And you never saw such a beautiful smile as a man had, where he could actually hear.
Yeah.
But it goes on that we have so many well-guarded secrets. Mm-hmm. And but what are some of the other things, Kerry and Joe, that the two of you, if I'm what are some of the other things that you all think that if we had an aging plan in Brevard County, what are some of the things that all these detractors from nonprofit organizations, what can we do better about maybe popularizing or making our government more aware of how they could help somebody cost effectively if we used old hearing aid devices, the Lions Club eyeglass program, making people. Good example is the recent thing down in Palm Bay about having a separate veterans office down in Palm Bay. Why have a veterans office in Palm Bay when we got a beautiful, extremely well-run, knowledgeable group at the Government Center in Vieira on Fran Jamison Way?
Well, this is really the core of the issue. You know, helping seniors ourselves as a nonprofit, we're a very small organization, but a highly effective one. And it is not that we have bushels of money to throw at anybody, but it is the experience of the people who are involved. Like when you call our senior information helpline and you get the benefit and wisdom of Kay's experience of decades of service with seniors, and your kind of backup and the people that you guys are connected to, you're able to solve a lot of problems simply because you know the right information that will make the difference at that particular time. This is what a county-wide aging plan would ultimately provide, a cohesive way to get that information so people know, well, if you have this problem, this is where you go. If it's this type of situation, you go there. And there doesn't need to be a duplication of services because, you know, the key thing is people say, well, if you have more money, you have more options. Well, that's certainly true. But if you still don't know which option is the correct option, then you're just throwing money against a problem which may not be making a difference. Conversely, one piece of information that may not involve any money whatsoever could dramatically change somebody's life. Just like what you were talking about with the hearing aids. If you never perceived yourself as being a person, you know, maybe you are that person that is making a go of it on a few $100s a month from Social Security. Something like a program like what you're talking about could dramatically change somebody's lifestyle because everybody's trying to function the best they can at whatever level they're at.
Yeah, and I have right now. When I went over to a dermatologist yesterday, and I was looking around the people sitting there, and I was looking to see who had hearing aids similar to mine. And actually, there were 4 people in there, 3 men, and all 2 of the 3 men had hearing aids in similar to what I had.
Were they vets?
And the question then came to my mind: did they get them from the VA, or did they buy them themselves? Because the ones they had were actually they fit the single cost hearing aid range from $2,000 to $3,000. You can tell by looking at them in many instances what the general cost range is.
Right.
But it just made me feel so badly that I know how to go about getting this, and this is one of the reasons that we started helping seniors in 2011.
Absolutely. It's getting information in people's hands. It's like when we talk with Joe and we talk about prescriptions. Again, if somebody would heed the advice that we've been talking about on the radio show and at least pick up the phone, call Joe, run over the medication list, find out what's possible. You might be finding yourself with hundreds of dollars in your bank every month that you didn't know, or at least not be in a position of trying to figure out, do I eat or do I take a pill?
Yeah, it would be very, very interesting if we knew the statistical correlation between the number of 437 you said, which is about the number of people you're serving now, compared to the fact that we have over 75,000 veterans alone in Brevard County that are eligible for Medicare. If you've got at least a 10% service-connected disability, you've got to have a service-connected disability.
Right.
You have to have that. But you can get that. And if you don't have it, you should at least call the Veterans Office at the I think it's 633-6012. 633-2012. I think that's the 2012. I'll look it up here.
Call Kay.
Call Kay. Call Kay. Call Kay at 473-7770, and Kay will give you the number for the local veterans office folks. And you might be surprised at what you could avail yourself of, and you don't even know about it. And that's sad, because with 75,000 veterans in the county, roughly 24.1% of the 568,000 people being senior citizens, a lot of those people, we know, Joe, have problems purchasing their drug medications. Are you going to solve all the problems? No, you're not. But for every problem solved, that's a positive gain.
Absolutely.
Correct.
And that's what makes a big difference.
You improve the quality of somebody's life.
Yes.
What else, Kerry, could a good aging plan do here in Brevard County to help people?
Well, the fire department conducts fire drills because they want everybody to know how to react in times of great stress. And we've all heard the expression about, there's a joke about a type of fire drill where everybody they hear the bell and they all go in 15 different directions. Well, the aging plan, the reason for the aging plan is it's supposed that we're all good citizens who really do want to make a difference for seniors in our community. Personally, just watching it, I don't particularly spot in any of the different areas of different government agencies, different businesses, different areas we talk in, I don't see anybody who's like, oh, no, let's kick our seniors to the curb. So what happens is it happens as a result because people aren't coordinating efforts. It's not by intent. It's by somebody hearing the alarm bell and everybody running off in 15 different directions to try to make something good happen, and we're not doing it in a coordinated fashion. If we came up with an aging plan, and considering that we're I think you said we're the 7th oldest county in Florida?
The 7th oldest county in Florida, but we're the 24th oldest county in the United States in American terms of the number of people over the age of 65.
So we should be setting the pace for everybody else to follow. If we really believe that Brevard County is elder friendly, then that means all of us, not just helping seniors folks, not just all of us working together. We should be coordinating our efforts so we are giving the best that you said it. We can't help everybody with everything, but a lot of times what we find as a fairly small organization but highly effective is it's simply getting somebody in contact with the right information, and that thing saves lives.
Well, the Florida Department of Elder Affairs has an initiative called Elder Friendly Communities out there. When the thing first came about, they envisioned wide, well-lighted streets where seniors 85 years old could get out and walk at 11 o'clock at night. Well, at 11 o'clock at night, I want to be watching one of my serial movies, or right now I like that Game of Thrones. That's pretty good. I'm trying to figure out what the little girl and the blonde are going to end up here, who's going to last the longest. But actually, some of these things, if you look at it in terms of historical benefit as compared to all the trashy parts of them, you can learn something. But we learn from everything we do, and why not? Why not have a positive experience out of the fact that you mentioned how small Helping Seniors is, but Helping Seniors gets an article from Joe Pons 4 or 5 times a year. We publish it in our newsletter. That we now have over 1,300 people that have asked for the online version of that newsletter to be sent personally to them. Plus, that newsletter goes into 12,000 copies of Senior Scene magazine, which is distributed all over Brevard County. And we're getting calls now from outside of Brevard County on articles that people read in that magazine. People will pick that magazine up and they'll read about Canadian Meds. They'll read about hospice. A lot of people don't understand hospice. They don't understand how hospice can make death easier for them. Nobody likes to think about dying, but why die in agony if you can die peacefully? Right. We've got to do a better job of educating our general public, and that's exactly why Helping Seniors was formed. To educate, inform, and connect, and that's something we do. Joe, you've been connected with Helping Seniors for a number of months. I think you came to one of our very first meetings. What has been your outside of the business association, from your being a sponsor with the organization, have you heard feedback or people that will talk about the value of the information that they've been able to access from reading about helping seniors, maybe in the Barefoot Bay Tatler or Senior Scene magazine or any of the media that we're published in?
Absolutely. Helping Seniors of Brevard fills a void. Brevard County, in particular, because of our population, and I get to deal with a wide spectrum, but mainly those who are 65 and older. The word, if you would, the word on the street is that without Helping Seniors of Brevard, there's a disconnect. For those who need a central location for information, there simply isn't a place to go. Yes, there's senior organizations, national organizations. There are some other local organizations, which, if you happen to be a member, yes, that's fine. But for just the average person, really the only place to go, the only place to call, people say, well, if you need someone, you need to call Kay. Mm-hmm. Call Kay at Helping Seniors of Brevard.
Kerry?
It's the price of a phone call, which is free, and I mean, it really could change your life for the better. So there's hope out there, but you gotta get in touch with people like Joe Pons, and you gotta give Kay a call at 321-473-7770. You'd be surprised how effective that can be.
And I also make a very, very genuine, heartfelt plea for all of you to listen to the commercial that John Harper is so kindly running here on radio station WMEL 1510 about our car raffle. Get your tickets and tell people to get those tickets for you. But take a look at the 1951 Ford Victoria that similar to the car that Robert Mitchum drove in the movie Thunder Road. It's a gorgeous car. You can see it.
Beautiful.
Look at our website. But I'll see you next week. I'm not sure who the panelist is next week, but we're working on it. But we'll be here next week with you. And thank you. Have a great weekend. The Labor Day is coming up, and won't be long. Have a great weekend, everybody. Bye-bye.